At the start, a man, head covered in blood, lay like a comedy clown, and his secretary panicked. The investigation team swiftly arrived. The deceased, Pollard, founded a foundation to fight human trafficking, a real-life superhero. Today he was supposed to publicly speak like a superhero, exposing human traffickers' evil deeds. But now, a noble hero has met a tragic fate. According to the secretary, the boss received a bad news text before his speech and rushed up. Based on the text record, a colleague named Carmen asked the deceased to sit down and chat in the office. The police are unclear if this colleague is the police have sent forensic experts to check it out, but Patrick can't shake the feeling something smells fishy like a fire extinguisher gone rogue. Initially, it seems impulsive, but the culprit's advanced text suggests a planned fire scene. This shows the killer aimed to stop Brad, not for thrill, like a supervillain. Patrick hypothesized the killer wanted to stop Brad's actions, but this lone hero ultimately paid the price, and the detective chimed in out of nowhere. Patrick thought, knowing the witch, Christie once used psychic skills to aid the Bureau, solving a murder like a magician. Now she had transformed into a police consultant, and Patrick had always been skeptical of her psychic abilities, leading to a fiery confrontation as soon as Patrick firmly believed her gift was just a trick. Much like the time he tried to disguise himself as a medium for some quick. His real talents are observation and deduction, guessing others' thoughts before they speak. A little detective. Christie insisted that her role as a consultant was all about helping people with her abilities, while Patrick could only shake his head at her superpowers. Meanwhile, Agent Drew heard news that Pay was facing some internet blackout while tracing the text message. The culprit might have intentionally encrypted it, but they decided to check other call records for leads. Tricia decided to start her investigation with the deceased social circle, focusing first on his wife, looking into the wife. But Mrs. Spud claimed her husband kept work secrets from her, and she didn't know much about what he did, yet she spilled the beans on some juicy news. Recently, her husband received death threats from traffickers, which turned out to be tied to his mission. Upon mentioning this, the mood turned heavy like a tragic movie. At that very moment, Christie unexpectedly claimed that she had actually heard her husband's words, demonstrating her incredible telepathy abilities. It's truly as if she possessed some kind of superpowers. Patrick mocked if Christie recalled the deceased to his wedding. Why not the killer? However, the woman explained that communicating with the other side is always a bit chaotic, and Patrick didn't want to argue with this unsolved. He finally asked Mrs. Spud if she knew someone named Carmen, the sender of the text to the deceased, but she claimed she had never heard of him. Meanwhile, Drew and Dodge Young found the deceased's assistant, Little Hay, who must have some scoops from work. Under police questioning, he initially seemed reluctant to get involved, but after persuasion, revealed some insider info. It turned out he and the deceased had taken down many traffickers with an anti-trafficking association's help like villains. However, after deepening the investigation, they were shocked it was actually a trafficking organization. This association used Brad's foundation to take down rivals at corporate conspiracy. This morning, Brad planned to expose the association in his speech. His assistant warned it was dangerous, but he ignored it. Nevertheless, he prepared his speech but was killed before presenting it. His assistant handed the backup to the police. The investigation bureau learned from the speech that Lynch, president of the Anti-Trafficking Association, is not straightforward. Facing the two agents' questioning, Lynch calmly insisted they must have been misled and offered to prove his innocence. The investigators asked if anyone knew Carmen, but Lynch and assistant Little Hay hadn't. However, President Lynch mentioned that the deceased Pollard had many enemies and that he saw Brad in a fight with a man just a few days. Dodge Young and Drew reported this lead to the bureau, though they couldn't fully believe everything that came out of Lynch's mouth. Drew quickly investigated the man's phone calls and found that he made only one vanishing call after leaving Wood. The call was even an anonymous mystery call. After tracking the signal, they discovered it was ultimately near a dilapidated warehouse. The two decided to head to the warehouse for a search, as it seemed to harbor some hidden secrets. Tricia and Patrick also followed leads to find the man who had argued with the deceased, only to discover Christie had already reached her destination. The man wore sunglasses early, seeming more suspicious. Only after Patrick's repeated request did he take them off. He indeed had a conflict with Brad, and the bruise on his eye was from Brad. It's like what goes around comes around. The night before Brad's murder, he witnessed a young woman exiting the deceased's room like a scene out of a fairy tale. Judging by her attire, this princess seemed to be a prostitute, and upon hearing this, Christie suddenly thought of someone. Meanwhile, Drew and Dodge Young had reached the abandoned warehouse where the signal was last detected, much like an explorer's adventure. The area was surrounded by fire barriers, suggesting they were hiding something important inside. The duo struggled to get inside, only to hear faint cries coming from a nearby container. Now that was a surprise. Drew didn't hesitate for a moment to break open the large lock on the container, and the instant he pushed the door open, the sight that greeted them left both of them utterly speechless with shock, as if they had stepped straight out of a horror movie. The girls locked in the container were all trafficked by the Anti-Trafficking Association, completely unrelated to charity. The true nature of this charitable organization was exposed, yet he stubbornly denied any connection to Brad's case.